Hey guys, and welcome to our bonus episode of Dungeon Tales. This is one of 3 bonus episodes that's going to focus on the backstories of our characters. Today's episode is going to focus on Sans and more about him and where he came from. I hope you guys enjoy it, and thank you so much for bearing with us while we're doing a little bit of restructuring. We have a lot of things in store for you in the future, including, as the obvious, renaming our podcast from its previous title of Chronicles of Elsewhere to the current Dungeon Tales. So, without further ado, my name is Kaiser Stardust, I'm your Dungeon Master, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dungeon Tales. See you on the internet. There are those out there who are not born of this world. The Nil make no exception. Deriving from Shadowfell, these strange beings have an unfathomable curiosity with the world around them. If a person came up to you and were to describe a Nil, they would probably say something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, man, they look similar to a deer if, like, the deer stood up on its hind legs. Oh, and they've got a skull for a face and antlers. Huh. Hey, although I did do a college thesis recently about wendigos, and I suppose they also look similar to something like that." Yes, exactly. Thank you, random surfer guy. Oh, hey, yeah, man, no problem. By the way, do you have some spare change? I'm trying to catch a bus to the beach. Yeah, sure. Here, take this. Anyways, these creatures are a member of a recluse tribe deep in the forgotten forest of Shadowfell. Most of them are very powerful. However, nowadays they're not as powerful as they once were. You can thank the powerful mages during the era of the arcane boom for that one. You see, these very mages traveled to this world and stole the crystals, known as nebulous crystals, from the Knolls cave homes. These very crystals gave the Nil their magic and expanded their life essence. Since then, the Nil have focused their sights on venturing through the worlds to find and return these stolen crystals. This, of course, has been made possible by a certain type of Nil known as Seekers. These Seekers display a talent for locating crystals at a very young age. Despite all of this, however, the Nil can still not survive on other planes without a great deal of acclimating to the environment. To combat this, they use a nebulous crystal from Shadowfell, while their body stays in the ethereal plane. And through the powers of the crystal, they channel their energy to form a humanoid shape tethered to a crystal in the material plane. Most of the time, this transition makes these beings weak, stripping them of their memory and sometimes even their powers. While this happens, they use the mist of the ethereal plane to regain their lost powers, slowly transferring more of their life essence into these crystals until they have the equivalency of a spacesuit to walk the material plane with. The Nil are strange beings indeed, but one may even ask the question, aren't we all a little bit strange? While we ponder this, let us start our adventure with one such very Nil, gathered around his friends, playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons. We open our scene with you, Sans. You are sitting down with a group of the local children from the village, all gathered around a table. You roll some bones that are shaped like small little cubes with little numbers and hieroglyphs and symbols on them. You roll, and one of the main people, one of the older children sitting at the table, looks at some notes that look to be cobbled together relatively quickly as he peers over from some big giant stone tablets. And he says, yeah, Sans, that's not going to cut it. I think for that one you're going to take... And he pulls out some bones with some symbols and stuff in them as well. You're going to take 3 points of damage from the vicious giant monster plant as it bites into your leg. What do you do?
I look at my great sword and I say, well, buddy, it was nice knowing you. As I wedge it into the plant's mouth as best as I can so I can free my leg.
Nice! Go ahead and roll some damage.
I roll a 13 to hit and a 3 on damage as I wedge my sword in there to pry my leg free, only to find that it's been mostly dissolved.
Ah, man, that's a bummer. You're going to have to roll a little bit more disadvantage moving forward. That's going to really affect you and your team. You're coming a little bit of a casualty. One of the other kids in the group pipes up. It's like, yeah, Sands, you're kind of being a total weight, like a total buzzkill. As he looks at some of the other players shaking their heads. The one says, well, you did kill off the monster, so props to that. One of the other children from the table says, Kazine, if I want to go ahead and try to heal him, can I do that? And Kazim looks at this kid and he says, Jace, no, that's definitely not possible. You are totally out of healing spells, unfortunately. So, as I was saying, you guys progress further down into this vault, and you find the big treasure. But as soon as you guys are heading back out, an avalanche happens. Hold on one second. I gotta roll some information here. Let's see here. Dun 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 dun. Oh no!
Hey guys, I'm not much of a vegetarian, am I right? Not gonna eat those plants anymore. Jeez, come get some vengeance on your ass, huh?
You just hear some, like, groans from the rest of the group at this terrible joke. You hear...
This is what happens when you don't eat all your vegetables, right? Nudge, nudge.
You hear some awkward laughing from the group, and then, like, someone else, like, heavily elbows the other guys. Like, ow, my ribs! Okay, gee, sorry. Kazine looks up from his tablets and slates, and he says, unfortunately, as you guys were walking out of the cave, no one gave me any sort of check. Remember, guys, we are playing Dungeons and Draugrs. Listen, you can't go into the Draugrs' enemy territory and not expect for there to be traps. Unfortunately, you guys tripped the alarm, and subsequently, you caused a cave-in. And that's going to do 300 damage to all of you. Unfortunately, you guys all die. And after he says this, everyone just groans. He's like, ah, great, says one of the other people in the group. I spent 3 weeks working on this character. And he like stands up and he like just like takes his stone tablet and shatters it onto the ground and like angrily storms off. It is around this time that you see a rather older gentleman approaching. He's wearing a very long headdress made out of bones, very ornate gems, and he has a relatively kind of large purple crystal that is tethered into the middle of this headdress, and he's wearing some very ornate robes, and he walks over holding a staff, and he says, son, it is time for you to come along. As you know, the initiation and ceremony is just beginning. It is time to say goodbye to your friends. What do you do?
Oh, come on, Dad. Come on, we just TPK. You gotta leave it on this note.
You see Kazine like rifling through some of his papers and some of his tablets, trying to get ready to like start another game. But he like looks up as your father gives him a very like daggerly dear, like don't you dare do that. And Kazine clears his throat. It's like, well, I was going to go ahead and get some dinner anyways. All right, bye. And he like just gets up and takes his things with him and like runs off.
Come on, Dad. You scared away all my friends.
Come on. It's time to put childish things away. We have bigger pressing matters. Don't make me force you.
And as Sansamore stands up, he trips on something, falls flat on his face, rubs his snout, goes, is that blood? What Oh, God.
Gosh.
Oh, I'm sorry. I tripped over my case of books.
What?
I'm sorry.
What am I going to do with you? How am I supposed to appoint you as the next Seeker when you're this clumsy? I worry that you're not going to be able to make it through the initiations.
I gotta tell you, I don't really, I don't know, maybe I'm clearly not cut out for this. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you should pick one of the other children?
You know, as my son, this is not an option. We have explained this many times. Come on, are we going to be late? Do you go with him?
Does this look broken to you, Dad?
No.
As he points to his
You
nose.
look fine. Come on. I'll get one of the healers to double check you out. Come on, let's get going before we waste any more time. They've already started working on the food.
I grab up my books and tablets as best I can. Some pages are falling loose. I scamper behind my dad.
Okay.
Dad, wait up! This stuff's heavy. Wait up!
He's like 10 steps ahead of you. He's just like, for an old man, he is like really just like got a very fast stride. So you scamper after him, and he makes his way more deeper into the forest, back towards the cave that you have called home since most of your childhood. And as you break the tree line and enter into the mouth of the cave, you hear music and some festivities going, and you can smell the smells of cooked meat wafting from the entrance of the cave. And as he leads you in, you can now see that there is a relatively big ceremony going on. Big, huge spread on the tables. You also see a lot of the tribespeople are there from your village. Some of them you recognize, some of them you don't. You do recognize some of the children from the village as well, who you were sitting down and playing games with. Most of the children are there. You don't notice Kazine there. You're not exactly sure where he went. He could probably just be running late. However, as you enter the room and your father makes his appearance, all of the jammering and chanting and dancing settles down, and people take their respective seats. And your father motions for you to sit at one of the chairs next to him. Do you?
I put my stuff down in a pile, and then, join him.
Okay.
Reluctantly.
Okay, and something you do notice that the main feast is this big giant creature that looks similar to what we would call a boar, but it has like 6 eyes and like tentacles that are kind of going off of its back, and it's being rotated on a big split, and it's being cooked, and you can tell that that's where the smell of this kind of cooked meat smells coming from. But your father clears his throat and he says, Fair tides, everyone. As you all know, today marks a special day in Shadowfell. My son, Exanmore, is going to be initiated into being our village's new seeker for the realm of Elsewhere on the material plane. As we all know, seekers are very important. As many moons ago, great and powerful wizards came to our realm and stole the crystals of our cave. Without these crystals, our once powerful race has been robbed of our energy, making us weaker than we once were. So, let us rejoice as we send my son out, not only on his first initiation task to prove his worth as a seeker, but also as my successor to the throne, as your next chief. And as he says this, people gasp and they start cheering. By the way, this is the first time that this has been news to you. And people cheer, and the music celebrations continue, and he says, May you all have enjoyable time at the festival. Please drink and be merry. And he stomps his staff to let everyone know he's done speaking, and he goes and walks off into a different room. What do you do? He has left you alone. You do have a couple of people coming up to you and like asking you questions and things like that. What do you do?
And I'm doing that whole kind of like looking over their shoulder, kind of like trying to pretend like I'm interested in talking to them. Meanwhile, I'm trying to eyeball the most direct route to my bedroom.
Okay. Yeah, give me a perception check.
That is, perception is wisdom. That's a 18.
Okay, yeah, you see your bedroom, but you have, like, two people who are, like, directly standing in front of you, and one of them's like, oh my goodness, Exanmore, how did you know that you were going to be the next chief? Have you heard of this? This is crazy, like, just, like, literally dribbling out the mouth. What do you do in this situation?
And literally, this is the first I've heard of this. And I'm like, oh wait, what?
Oh wow.
Like while my dad was speaking, I was zoned out.
Can you?
And now it's like, wait, what?
Can you do me a favor and give me a charisma roll with disadvantage, please?
That is a 11 plus 3, so 13, no, 14.
Okay. They look like slightly taken aback by this, but also nervous and disappointed and concerned. Like, if someone could have all of those facial expressions go across their face, that is what you just witnessed. And they're like, I see. Oh, okay. Well, I wish you the best. And they just, like, take their friend and hurriedly walk off. But you can tell that they are definitely talking about you very concernedly as they walk off into like, somewhere far away from you. Do you go to your room?
Yeah, I'm going to do a stealth check.
Okay, yeah, give me a stealth check.
That is a 12.
Okay,
Not great.
Apparently, everyone else in the crowd immediately kind of like, I guess a lot of people overheard that, and so everyone's kind of just like just turning away from you a little bit and drinking their drinks and just really trying to focus on just leaving you alone. So you make your way to your room. You can definitely tell, like, you know that feeling when you could tell definitely people are like looking at the back of your head? That's exactly the feeling you're getting as you walk to your room.
Yeah, I do that kind of like, sort of like overly strictly standing up straight kind of walk, hustle walk with my foot pressed against my chest.
Okay, so I'm going to say this. You make your way to your room, and just so that we're not spending, like, excessive amounts of time here, I'm going to say that you're in your room for a couple of hours. Out of curiosity, do you join in any of the ceremony, or do you just kind of just avoid it?
Oh, absolutely avoiding it.
What is your thoughts on it? Like, do you just think that this is like a grand show that your father's putting on, or like, what is your thoughts? Like, what is Sans?
My dad got me into.
Yeah.
I don't want this. As I fiddle with this odd mechanism, just wondering what it's for, but I can't. I'm trying to get my mind off of the events of the day, the loss of my character. You know, having to make a new character again, but probably not going to get to because bullcrap my dad's pulling. And I'm just looking at my weird devices and oddities in my room. What do I have in my room?
You've got a straw bread. You have a straw bread. That's what you have. Straw bread. Delicious. No, you have a straw bed. You have a kind of like a makeshift stone table with various different kind of metal gizmos. Some of these gizmos look kind of like, for example, like a gyroscope. Like you have several different kind of metal, different objects that kind of circle around each other, and in the center it's got like a glowing core. You have like another little one that's just a little box with like lights on the end of it. You're not exactly sure what it does. You press the lights and they just turn off and on. And you have, of course, some of your swords that you have used before that you keep. But other than that, you only have one other little thing, and that is a little. It's a little it's a little animal. It's not a real animal. It's like a stuffed animal. It's just like a little stuffed animal of something that you have seen when the higher priest, like the high priest, are using scrying. It kind of it's something that was basically was a very big fan favorite in your village of something that was on elsewhere. And it's a little fox, it kind of looks like a fox, but it's got big ears and a big bushy tail, and its torso is very small with big giant beady eyes. It was so popular in the village that they made a lot of them for the children. And you were one of the lucky ones who got one. So you have that. It's just like it literally looks like a fennec fox, basically.
Yeah, I give you a little pat on the head for luck. And I grab my limited edition collector's item from elsewhere sword that I got. It came with some sort of little placard in a language I could not read.
Okay.
But it's got some girth to it. It's got some weight.
It's a sword, you said?
Figure I might grow into it. Yeah, it's a sword. And on the plaque, it says, to my best of reasoning, it says Madner.
Okay. As you're picking it up and kind of overlooking at it, there's a knock on your door.
I go to my door, and I do that kind of like thing where you put your ear to the door and you say, "Who's there?"
It's me, son. Can I come in?
Just a second, Dad. And I shove some strange pictures I have and illustrations under my bed, and then unlock my door.
Okay. He says, I hope I'm not intruding, son. I just noticed that you weren't at the ceremony, but it's no matter. Listen, I just worry about you, son. Do you mind if I come in? He's still like standing in the doorway.
Sure, Dad. Yeah.
He walks. He does that awkward thing that dads do, where they don't fully walk into the door, but they just kind of like come in just enough to where they're like in the room, but they're not in the room.
You know what you're talking about.
And he just kind of awkwardly leans against the wall, and then like you can see him like shifting, like not exactly knowing what to do with his body, and then he like clears his throat and he says, Look, son. I'm sure you're tired. I'm sure that's probably why I didn't see you at the ceremony. But I know there was a lot of information we went over today. And I know that you have your protest on, being a seeker and, much less being the next in line for the throne. It's something that I haven't really talked with you much about, and I apologize for springing it on you as I have. I just knew it was going to be, unfortunately, a situation where I just felt like you were not going to want to do it unless it was presented to you. Do you understand what I'm saying, son?
I just always thought he would be the next in line.
Yes. Yes. I'm assuming you're referring to your brother. Unfortunately, Papyrus has not returned from the Nine Hells where he was tasked with retrieving the stone. And without him being here, we can't really necessarily indoctrinate him into as heir to the throne. And thus, you are the next one in line. I still do worry what has become of your brother, as we have not seen him in quite some time. But this should be an honor to you, Sans. I hope that you treat it as such. This is a great honor, and quite frankly, I definitely feel like he clears his throat uncomfortably. He says, you have leadership potential, and maybe not on the same caliber as your brother. He says this like looking away, not actually looking at you. He says, but I do believe you will be a fine candidate in time with some guidance. Anyways, we'll let you get back to your things. And he turns to leave the room. Do you say anything to him before he leaves?
Hey, Dad.
Yes?
It wasn't your fault. I hope you know that. And I closed my door.
Yes. And he walks off. He walks out of the door. We're gonna go ahead and fast forward a little bit. You are now on your first mission. Something that has been told to you is that you are something much to the surprise of the tribe's people. You have been tasked with retrieving the crystal.
Now, this crystal has once, quite some time ago, been stolen from the Knolls by the Knolls. And you know that it is relatively treacherous to get this crystal, especially since they've lost several seekers trying to recover this.
The Knolls are a vicious group of hyena-esque humanoids that ravage the land of Shadowfell. They've made their home to a very barren and almost inhospitable wasteland of a graveyard of long ago creatures that all died during a cataclysmic event. And they have since taken up hostility there and have even been known to attack other members of the Knolls. So you know for a fact that your father is definitely testing you with your abilities to retrieve this item.
How long would you say it's been by this?
It's been just like a day or so.
Okay, not long at
No.
all.
So, you have been tasked with going over to the entrance of the Knolls Mountain, which is home to the graveyard. You are being tasked with going there to retrieve the crystal. Now, this is going to be a small little thing that we are going to do. So, I'm going to go ahead and roll some dice here, and I'm going to tell you kind of a general synopsis of kind of how far. Now, something that you have been, that you as a Knoll have an innate ability for is sensing crystals. Basically, locate object-esque where crystals are, just naturally. And you have such an ability. So I'm going to tell you how far away this is. Okay, so this is going to be about 15 miles away. Now, I'm of course not going to go through all of these miles. Most of this is just you going through very treacherous terrain. You're going up mountains and going up cliffs. And every now and then, you can hear the cackle of laughter from the Knolls far off in the distance. Every time that you hear this, it does send a shiver up your spine, and you can recount off the top of your head how many people have been lost, even remotely going near this territory. Do you think anything while you're going up these treacherous mountains?
Man, if they find me, they're going to have a real bone to pick with me, or rather, one of my bones to pick their teeth. But I think to myself to try to keep myself.
Yes, as you're laughing at your own jokes, you hear some movement from above you on one of the upper hills as you're rounding kind of one of the corners. Give me a perception check.
That's a 9.
All right. As you look up, you see possibly maybe like what you might think is like a wisp of cloth or something, but it goes away too quickly for you to even see what it is. You don't hear anything else from that. As you make your way up, you are, I'm going to say, at this point about 7 miles away. You are now in the top of this plateau, and as you make your way to the top, you can now see bones strewn apart from large animals, huge skulls that expand many miles. You even see some rib cages that have basically turned into tunnel formations, plants and overgrowth growing over top of them. This truly is the land of the dead. As you make your way through this treacherous land, a very thick and heavy fog starts to roll in from the distance and obscuring some of the view from this area. You know that this fog is home to other creatures and entities, and you try not to think about this as you make your way onward. you come across a bridge. This bridge connects one side of the chasm to the other. And you are getting a very strong sense that this crystal is on the other side of this bridge. This bridge goes to a mountain, and inside this mountain you can see that there is a cave that this bridge goes to. What do you do?
I'm going to stealth with that's a 15.
Okay. Again, you hear a cackle in the distance, but it sounds kind of far away from your location. As you make your way across this bridge, do you look down, or do you just keep it pushing?
I look down.
Okay. You look down, and you see that this fog goes and blankets the bottom. You can't see the bottom of this chasm, but you can make out the forest on the far horizon that is your home. And as you kind of still yourself from looking down, you continue on and make your way to the other side of the bridge. You hear the calling of a crow as it flies its way overhead, and you can almost feel like it's looking at you as it calls again and again flaps off into the distance. Do you make your way into the cave?
Do.
Okay.
At first, I cast 4 frost upon my blade.
Okay, you're casting a spell?
I gently run my hand across my blade, and as I do, it begins to hum, and this inky black coldness forms across the surface
Okay.
of it.
All right. You make your way into this cave.
Hey y'all, Kel here, with a quick ad break to tell you about Anchor. What is Anchor, you may ask? Well, it's only the easiest way to make and upload your own podcast. Let me explain why. Well, for starters, it is free. That's right, Free, free. And with all of us sheltered in and hunkered down, now is the best time to make a podcast. They also have built-in creation tools that let you record and edit the audio straight from your computer or even your phone. You don't even need to download anything. Plus, Anchor will distribute your podcast to places like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more places where podcasts are listened to, letting you focus on your creating. But the best part of this whole thing is that you can make money from your podcast with sponsorships through Anchor that require no minimum listenership. It is huge for everyone just starting out. It is everything you need to make a successful podcast in one central location. Now, if you're ready to take your big idea and share it with the world, then go over to anchor.fm, download the app, or simply click the link in the description to get started today. Well, that's all for me. Happy sailing.
Hey, Kaiser here. Today's episode is made possible by Audible. Now, as most of you know, Audible is the leading provider of audiobooks with over 180,000 books to choose from. Now, I know when I'm on a long drive or stuck in my daily commute, or even just wanting to relax with something to keep my mind off the grind, Audible comes through. And between you and me, I enjoy them because my attention span does not let me sit down to read traditionally, since I have so many things I'm doing during the day. So, if you're wanting to start your free 30-day trial, head on over to audibletrial.com/Dungeon Tales, or follow the link in our description and enjoy a free audiobook on us. That's all for me. Now back to the adventure. It's relatively dark. You can hear the drips of water off the ceiling that pool onto the floor. You can hear small insects and scurries of other strange creatures in the night. As you make your way in, it's eerily calm, collected, very quiet. Do you want to give me any sort of rolls?
I'm going to, again, I'm on that stealth of 15, I hope.
Yes.
I will a perception, nat 20.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
With a nat 20, you see from further down into the cave, you can make out definitely some sort of humanoid shadow in the far off of the cave, but just as you kind of lock eyes on it, it scurries off and disappears somewhere deeper into the cave. Your radar senses, is the word I'm going to use here, are going off, and you can tell that this cave splits off into two directions, in right and left. The shadowy figure went off to the right, but your pinging senses are going off to the left. What do you do?
I'm going to see if I can't maybe make that other tunnel collapse a little.
Okay. Sure. How are you gonna? What are you gonna do with that?
Eldritch Blast.
Ooh. Okay. Sure. I mean, is that an attack roll or what?
Yeah, that's going to be an attack roll, but I don't know. Let me see here. Yeah, that went horribly wrong. Nat 1.
Dear God.
I'm a nat 20 to a nat 1 immediately.
Okay. Your dice are throwing you for a loop. Here's what happens. Eldritch Blast. It's like a ray of light, right? Like it's like a plasma beam sort of situation. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine, yeah.
Okay, so you go to just kind of try and cause a cave-in to that ceiling area to kind of block in that right cave. However, as you go to do so, a small creature runs past your feet and trips you up. And as you kind of look down in a start, you can see it's like a small rat creature with like 3 eyes as it runs off and hisses at you. You notice this simultaneously as you're casting Eldritch Blast, causing you to blast upwards and across, also kind of cutting into the wall, which is home to a lot of stalactites. You blast into some of the stalactites in the ceiling, and this blast not only causes a cave-in on that side, but you can see that now huge giant spikes are now falling, rock spikes are falling from the ceiling. I need you to make a dexterity saving throw.
That's a 10.
You make your way out of the way of most of them. However, one medium-sized one does hit you for 5 points of bludgeoning damage as it slams into your shoulder. But you are able to kind of make your way past it.
Nat 1. Yeah, God.
Yeah, just really hurting yourself there. All right. So with that being the case, that entire entrance has been closed off. You make your way in, and you can now hear an audible cackling coming from the previous way that you just came. You make your way in to a room. This room is illuminated, and as you take a look around, you can tell that this room is illuminated in purple, and sitting on a pedestal is one of crystal that has been stolen from your people from quite some time ago by the Knolls.
Once I'm within 15 feet of it, I want to use lightning lure, like I do.
Okay, so you cast lightning. And are you just picking it up? You cast lightning lure on it, and the lightning kind of crackles around this crystal. And as it crackles around this crystal, it creates kind of a lightning cage around it, allowing you to pick it up. And as you bring it closer to you, you can hear this humming from inside this. What I want you to do is roll a survival check.
That's a nat 1.
Okay, yes, you bring it close to you, and as you're trying to basically get a bag around it, your spell goes out a little bit more quicker than you were expecting to. And in that brief moment, you grab the crystal reflectively to try to prevent it from shattering on the ground. And as you grab it, you feel this kind of wave of light and energy just kind of course through you. You start levitating off of the ground. And as you start levitating off the ground, you have this kind of vision in your mind. And this vision is clear as day. And all around you there is fire. All around you, you hear screams of agony. As you look, there's smoke and ash that covers the sky. And as you look at your hands and your body, you are noticing that you are not looking at yourself. This looks strangely like your older brother. And you can hear them talking. And you hear them say, "But Master, if we do this is going to be an attack on my own people. Do you not understand the gravity of that situation?" And you hear a relatively soft but stern voice that's almost feminine in nature respond back and saying, "Yes,
I do understand the gravity of this situation, Pius. But understand that Beatrix has tasked me with making sure that this problem has been resolved, because she is going to be taking over Shadowfell. And in order for her to take over Shadowfell, there can't be a secondary person fighting for the throne. Do you understand, Papias? I understand that you are of their people, but this is something that has to be done.
And you get this strange feeling of sadness and regret, almost as if you're feeling it through Papias. And he says, very well, Agrath. I understand. And just like that, this vision goes away. You're back in this room, you're holding this crystal in your hand. What do you do?
I'm going to listen to the door to make sure that cackling, what's happened to that cackling.
Give me a perception check.
Gosh, dang it, that's a 4.
Oof. With a 6, you don't hear anything.
I ease the door back open.
Give me 1 second, I'm gonna do some rolls. Huh, interesting. Okay, you ease the door open, and as you open it up, you don't hear anything, you don't see anything. Do you start heading back the way you came?
I'm going to do a stealth of 1.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. My dice have a funny sense of humor.
Yeah, so you very noisily make your way out of the cave, I'm assuming? So here's...
Awkward and clumsy, yeah, my sword
Here's
making all sorts of noise.
Here's what happened. As you're making your way back, here's what happens. You make your way back to the Y fork in the road, and the area still is caved off. And as you are getting ready to leave out of the main entrance, you are not looking where you're going, and you forgot that there was a giant cave-in moments ago, and it just eluded your brain. And you trip over a broken pile of rubble and fall to the ground. And
Rock my nose again. Ah! Shit, I say, loud.
And as you do so, you again hear the cackling. And this time, it's behind you. And as you make your way to your feet, the cackling gets louder. And there's not just, this cackling is joined by several more, and several more. And as you kind of get to your feet and look around, you can now see that behind you, there are 5 Knolls.
I quickly, reflexively grab from my back a hood. I grab it quickly, I throw it over my head. It is a mask that looks like a Knoll.
Do you... is this something that you have? I don't remember this being in your inventory loadout, but okay. Alright, sure.
I went into my room, I grabbed things.
Okay, alright.
I'm Five Nights at Freddy this shit. I got a freaking Freddy mask on.
Give me a deception check at disadvantage, please.
The first one was a nat 20, the next one was a, I think I'm proficient in that. We go. Deception? No, I'm not. Okay, but it is a, what did I say I rolled?
You rolled a nat 20, and what was the other one?
Unfortunately, my dice moved. I'm re-rolling that second one. That is a 10, so 13.
Okay, here's what happens. So the Knolls, they're as they're kind of looking at you, and they now see this other kind of more makeshift Knoll looking back at them. They kind of laugh very uncomfortably, and they kind of look at each other,
And I'm going to have them roll. They seem very confused. They seem kind of like muttering to themselves and kind of laughing kind of on and off as well. And then you hear some heavy footsteps from somewhere else in the chamber, from back the way you came. And you see a bigger Knoll making his way out. And this Knoll just pushes past these other ones. And looks at you, and he growls. This one stands 6.5 to 7 feet tall. He holds a giant spear, and he says, you see him just kind of slap some of the other Knolls. He has such a massive wingspan of arm that he just slaps all of them at once, and they all kind of click to attention, and you see him point a finger at you. And you can see that the other ones start to growl. What do? And they start stepping towards you.
I quickly whip out those dirty pictures that I hid from my father.
Hey?
They are antiquities, much like many other things in my room from places unknown. And they are most naughty and very furry.
Okay, great. What are you doing with these?
Offering them to the Knolls. Very, very matter-of-factly.
I don't even know what to roll for this. Why are you doing this to me? I guess give me a persuasion check, I guess?
All right. This I am trained in. That is, so I'm trained in it, so it's 2 plus a stat thing of 3, so that's 5. Plus 3 is 8, so 18.
Okay. They all seem very taken aback by this, but then momentarily afterwards, you see the main pack lord leader. He just kind of growls and he charges at you. And he is going to go ahead and make an attack at you. And he is going to go ahead and roll a 13 to hit. Does that hit?
Just hit.
Okay. He lunges his spear at you for 3 points of piercing damage. And actually, no, I'm sorry. Yep, nope, that's correct. He was using it one-handed. What are you doing? Are you rolling initiative, or are you taking off? You're facing about 6 Knolls.
That's piercing, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's half, so 1 point of damage.
Okay. Are you?
And I forgot that the debris would be cut in half as well.
Okay. Why is that?
Because you have a damage resistance, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yep. All right. Sure. So, okay. And are you taking off? You're facing 5 Knolls and 1 Knoll pack lord. What are you doing? I will kill you.
I do that whole kind of toss the porn in the air and book it.
Okay. All right.
I toss it like when you toss money.
Yes. You see a few of the Knolls go after that, but I'm gonna say, Jesus. 5.
Yeah, take a disengage, basically. That's my form of a disengage in this.
Okay. Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna roll a d4, and we're gonna see how many of them go after the nudie pages. Okay, 2 of the 5 go after the nudie pages. So we are now, Jesus. Okay, we're now down to 3. So 3 pursue you, actually make that 4, including the main pack leader. 4 of them start charging after you as you run across this bridge. You see 3 of them chase after you, but you see the main pack leader stays behind, and he is going to cut the bridge. So he goes and he pulls a long, like, axe off of his back.
Beat me to it.
And he takes and he chops the support lines to the bridge, and the bridge starts falling. I need you to make a dexterity saving throw, and I'm going to do a dex saving throw for 3 of the other Knolls.
That's a nat 20. What the heck, die?
Well, the dice apparently don't want you to die, so that's good.
I guess. It just wants comical effect.
Ooh, okay. What am I making the CR challenge rating for a bridge falling? I'm going to make that, make that a 15. That's a pretty moderate situation. Okay, so that was... Okay, so one of them, who is like the last in the line who is chasing after you, you just see him fall to his death. So we are now down to 2, and the other 2 do make it across, and they are still chasing you. You are continuously running back down the hill, and you run through a kind of this bone, I'd say it's kind of like a bone rib cage and skull. And as you're running through it, you see that 2 of the Knolls kind of jump up on top of it and start kind of monkey roping across the rib cage on top.
Yeah, I'm blasting at the rib cage.
Okay, give me an attack roll. This is a relatively, think like an elephant bone. This is really big bones.
That is a 19?
Yeah, that hits.
No, sorry, 20.
Yeah, that hits. What's your damage?
It is a D10 Eldritch Blast. That's 8 of damage.
8 points of damage. Okay, here's what I'll say. A small section of the ribcage breaks off, and I'm going to have the other one do a dexterity saving throw. They got a nat 20. I'm going to have the other one do a dexterity saving throw. They got a 10. So one of them falls, and it's the one that lands behind you. The one that gets the nat 20 nimbly jumps up and kind of just grabs another rung of the rib cage and uses it to basically accelerate, fling him forward. And he does one of those awesome sick parkour rolls in front of you, and he pulls out his spear. Go ahead and roll for initiative.
All right. God, what? Why? 5.
Okay. All right. So this Gnoll grits its teeth and growls at you, and again cackles as it holds its spear at you. It's gonna go ahead and do a spear attack. That is a 13 to hit.
That hit.
Yep. And that is for 6 points of piercing damage.
6. Okay, so that's 3. Oh man, starting to hurt.
Yes. These are a challenge. He does not have multi-attack. It is now your turn. What are you doing?
Alright, I'm going to, so I'm going to do the count where you leap towards the target, jumping 10 feet, and attacking it with the crystal sword. In this case, it's going to be
your normal sword.
The target must succeed a DC 12 dex saving throw, or take 20 damage and be knocked prone.
Okay. That is 20. Did you say 20 damage?
So you've got written here.
Jesus. Okay. I'll have to take a look at that later. That's crazy. All right. Dexterity saving throw?
Has to be a 12.
They do not pass. They got a 6. So yeah, you jump up and are you slashing into them? I'm assuming, and also kind of knocking them to the ground.
I'm going to do a very cool try to lunge, press the blade into them, push them back, knock them down, and also kind of with my hand I was pushing the sword with, then press into him, and then basically carry me into a forward flip.
Okay, so you do everything that you do.
And land on the other side of him.
Yeah, you do everything that you just described. However, the only one thing that changes with that whole description is as you slam into him with your legs, slamming him to the ground, pressing your sword into him, you press your sword into his shoulder with so much force that you cut and sever off his entire arm. And as this blood sprays all over as a fine mist into the foggy depths of this land, you hear him howl in pain as you do a barrel roll past him. You don't see him get back up. He is still alive, but you see he is barely clinging to. The other one who was chasing you looks at you, looks back at his fallen brethren,
and decides to help his brethren and get him back to his feet. And you see them just kind of...
Oh, jeez, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm going to try to help.
You see them... you see the other one just hold up a spear to you and just kind of like push at you, kind of to push away. As you are doing this situation, the crystal that you have next to you starts glowing. It starts glowing very brightly. You hear some scared whimpers and yelps from the other hyenas as they kind of like back away from you. Where do you have this crystal currently? Is it in the sack or where is it?
It's kind of tucked into my underwear.
Okay. It starts
like the back, just like I don't have pockets.
Okay.
I'm wearing basically like a loincloth.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like...
It starts burning your leg. Like you feel your flesh burning. What are you doing?
Oh jeez! Oh god! Oh! And I grab it and I'm doing that like kind of like hot potato.
Okay.
And I balance on my sword. I finally balanced it on my sword.
Okay, as you do that, it starts levitating in the air and spinning around in this, it's kind of like this diamond shape. It's spinning around very fastly, and then all of a sudden you see this white light and a flash, and you wake up. You are in the forest. You're still holding this crystal. It's no longer glowing. You are back in the forest. You are now, you can recognize that you're just like a few miles outside of your home. What do you do? Do you make your way back to your home?
I stand there for just a second, looking around both ways. God, I'm lost! I'm lost! Because I'm not turned the right way. Oh god! Oh geez! And I turn around and there's the town, and I'm just like, oh.
Okay, so you start making your way back to the cave. You get to, I'd say, right where you are outside of the, like right before you break tree line to the cave. And as, I need you to give me a perception check.
Nope, 18.
So here's what happens with an 18. You are just about to break tree line and go back over to your cave with your new crystal. And you hear a familiar voice. You hear the voice of Papyrus, and he says, Father, please, just please listen to them. Listen to them. You'll make this so much more simpler on yourself and everyone else. And you hear your father responding back. He says, and what? Jeopardize the entire tribe? Turn everyone against me and us and destroy everything that we stand for? No, Papyrus, I will have no part in this. You and your friend can go back wherever they want to go to, but I will defend this tribe with my dying breath. And then you hear that soft voice in a very calm, stern voice respond back. Very well, we tried to play things your way, Papyrus. Unfortunately, it is now my turn. You have made your choice, old man. If you shall not join us, if you refuse to join Botrix, then you shall meet your fate here. Just know I gave you the choice. And with that, you hear this whirling of energy. You see the trees around you. You see their leaves start to kind of wither up. You see the ground around you, the grass start to turn black. More black than it normally is as it withers and dies. With a 18, correct?
Mm-hmm.
With an 18, you hear, you look up in the sky and you see this huge purple clouds start to swirl around this area. As the skies start to turn purple and then blast of orange as they start swirling around in a circle. The wind starts picking up to a fierce howl, and you hear your father say, "What are you doing? Don't you know that something of that nature is forbidden? You're foolish!" And as he says that, you see in the sky this huge purple skull form out of a spear that these clouds have whipped into.
You hear this loud, menacing, shrieking sound that is deafening. You can't hear anything almost over the sounds of this wind. And then, to your horror, you start to see the tribespeople, and as everyone's trying to take cover into the cave, you start to see things around this. It starts with things around it. You start to see them turn to crystal. You start to see these huge, giant pillars of crystal start to kind of just come up out of the ground and start capturing everything around it. You see your father try to run, but his foot gets snagged in the ground, and you see huge, jagged shards of purple amethyst start to go up his leg, and as he screams, the amethyst just goes up and increases him. You see trees start to be ripped up and sent into the sky, into this huge orb that is now the face of a skull. And as you start to slowly back away from this situation, trying to figure out what you're going to do, you again see that crystal that you have kind of just are still holding. It starts levitating again, and it starts spinning around in a circle very fast. And just as you see this person, the person who has called this forth, the person that your brother refers to is Agaroth. You see their face briefly. It's a feminine face, very elven in nature, but you can tell that they are male. They have long hair that is tipped as crimson as blood, while the most of their hair is black. They're wearing chainmail armor, and you can see that they have a long cross. Cross had wings on it, and you can see that a bluebird sits on their shoulder, and you see they look at you very briefly, and you see them smile. And that's the last thing you see as this crystal flashes again, and you are gone. The next thing that you see is hardwood floor. As you come to your senses and wake up, you are now in the cellar of somewhere. And as you get to your feet and try and fumble around in the dark, you make your way to a door. And as you slowly creak it open, the sounds of tavern music can be met to your ears. And you now know you're in a tavern. The very tavern that we will begin our adventure. Hey guys, thanks for taking the time to listen to this episode. We have some shoutouts that we need to give special thanks to for helping us out. Starting off with our contest winner for renaming our podcast. Special thanks goes to Luna Ruffles on Telegram. Thanks, Luna. Next up, big shout out to Anchor.fm for hosting our podcast, along with TabletopAudio.com, Darian Curtis Music.com, and Zapsplat.com for letting us use their wonderful music and sound effects. More episodes coming soon. Be sure to follow us at Dungeon Tales on Twitter to keep up with our show and tweet at us. Until next time, this is Kaiser Stardust, signing off.